Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome back to MLL Talk. I think it's our third show. Unfortunately, we're still not together, not all four of us, just us three. I'm your host at Goldberg or Andrew Goldberg, and I'm joined by Alex Urquhart and Giancola. You can tweet at them for Alex Urquhart because he coaches all the way up there in Minnesota. I don't know how they do it. Um, and as well as at Giancola Sports for Dave Giancola. So, boys, how are you doing today?
The sun's out here in Minnesota. We've
Did
had,
we lose?
I think, almost 2 or 3 days of close to 50s. It's actually like it's going to be spring this year, which is amazing to us after the apocalypse winter we've had up here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
nice
like
over
you
here finally. So one more day of cold. Hopefully it'll warm up back again and get back out on the field and such.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it was like 60 here. I mean, I know you and me, Dave, are in Jersey here, but it was like 60 here, and then it got down to 20. And it was cold, Alex, all right? I don't want to hear your, you know, your tough it up, tough it out attitude, all
You
right? It's
know,
still cold.
you guys sit there and complain about it being cold. It's 20. That's shorts and a t-shirt weather for us. I mean, I saw a guy in Speedos today.
What?
Yeah,
Or in
literally saw
Speedos,
a
just
guy
like
in
going out,
Speedos.
chilling.
Whatever, man. Let's talk football.
All right, there was a lot of exciting action this week in college lacrosse. You had some great games. I think the first game that we should really look at was Loyola's trouncing of Duke. It wasn't a trouncing, whatever. It was 4-3 at the end of the first quarter in Duke, with the lead, and then all of a sudden, Loyola, excuse me, goes on a huge run, 5-0 run, and ends up winning the game 15-7. Big games from Matt Sawyer, not to be confused with his older brother Mike Sawyer. He had 6 goals. Nick Pontrello had 5 goals, which are huge games, and basically they carried them by themselves. On the other hand, Duke didn't look so good. They lost their second straight game after losing a tight one to Maryland by 4 last week. They come into another big game against Loyola and get trounced. So, boys, you know, should we panic with Duke lacrosse? I mean, they're 2-2, or they're actually not 2-2, but they have 2 losses now, both against ranked teams. They beat Penn at the beginning of the season, but you know, what exactly is going on down there in Durham?
Um, I I think Duke shouldn't panic. I think it's early in the season, and we've seen Duke struggle early in the season before. They've been known to drop their first game overall, the past 5 years. Not every year, but um, you know, they can come back from this, and they're going to play better. I'm trying to pull up their schedule right now. I mean, I was just looking at Loyola stats, and the numbers they're putting up offensively are surprising to me this year. But I'm sure they caught Duke off guard too. I mean, Duke beat Stony Brook, Penn, Denver, which is definitely a quality win, in Jacksonville, but they still have so many opportunities. I mean, Syracuse, Harvard, Notre Dame, and Virginia are all big games. North Carolina this weekend. So I mean, let's say they beat North Carolina by 4 or 5 goals, they're right back in it, and it's going to come down to the ACC tournament with these teams because they're all going to be playing well at the end of the season.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
Duke, I'm
Alex,
actually
what about you? What do you feel is the problem there?
with Duke. Looking at them, I personally think they were a little overrated this year at the beginning of the year. But I don't know if it's panic time yet. It might be time to maybe check who's in net again. But I mean, they had a big win against Penn, who personally I think is probably the sleeper this year. They're doing what Penn State did last year. They're getting the wins that they should, and they're sneaking a couple in there. I I think with Loyola, it's a little difficult because they look like they're back to their national championship run. Just the way that the style they're playing looks like it did back then, and that was a scary team. So I don't know if Duke should be panicking just yet. I think they've got a long way to go. They've got the ACC still to deal with. So I mean, any day in the ACC, and you've got a game going to happen no matter what. So
Yeah, but I guess the reason why I say panic is the way they lost and all their goalie situation is very, like you mentioned, Alex, is very up and down. I mean, they started with Kyle Turry right from the start of the season, and then I think either halfway or like three-quarters in the game, switched to Luke Aaron, the sophomore, who played well, and then he started the next three games until this past game against Loyola. And then against Loyola, he had like one save, a 187 save percentage, I think it was. And then Kyle Turry comes in and plays pretty well in relief. I mean, they still lost. But for a team, I mean, I think it's very tough, especially as a goalie. You know, it seems like you're screwing around with their psyche. I mean, a goalie's psyche can be very fragile, and you're also kind of screwing up the team chemistry because, you know, when you have a goalie in there, you know, goalie kind of wants different things from his defense. Defense kind of gets used to sliding in a certain way for certain guys, and, you know, they know who can handle shots from where. And flip-flopping back and forth and having two guys instead of one, you know, I feel like it's a problem. I mean, what do you think about it, Dave?
I completely agree with the psyche aspect. I spoke about it, I guess, 2 weeks ago on our last show because Princeton was struggling finding their goalie, and they were splitting halves, which I hated because somebody has to come in, which is always an awkward situation, and somebody, you know, knowing that you're being sat, knowing that you're coming in. I just don't think it's natural for a goalie to have to feel that way. You should have your game to own. But as far as Duke's concerned, I have a feeling that it's going to be Kyle Turry who turns this around. I mean, we know Kyle Turry, you know. Luke Aaron's going to get his chance, but I think maybe they were trying to get Kyle Turry, you know, early in the season, give him a little kick in the butt by putting Luke Aaron in, and Luke Aaron comes in, and overall he has a 55% save percentage, you know, and Kyle Turry's still sitting at 41%. But I think if Duke wants to make a run, they're going to need to do it on older leadership. Kyle Turry's been there before, so I would expect him, you know, in the end to be the answer. I mean, if there's ever a goalie controversy, I say you go with the guy that's been there before.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think about that? Because I mean, I agree with you, and I agree with you guys in what you're saying about Duke. I mean, we've seen it before. I mean, last year they started 0-4, 0-5, and then got a big win against Loyola and turned their whole season around. So I mean, what do you think that Kyle Turry, they go with the veteran, they have Kyle Turry now and just ride him out?
you know, I don't know which way you really want to go. I mean, you know what you have in Turry. I mean, he's done it before, but you've got Aaron now that sits there and he's giving you a little something now. I mean, he's played fairly well through his starts, albeit he's gotten into some trouble and had to be relieved. But for me, I mean, as a coach, I go sit there and I'll go, you got to go with a hot hand at this point, but really you don't have a hot hand, so it's more or less who's looking the best in practice. So, I mean, it's going to be whoever decides that they're the starter, more or less, is what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add, you know, I completely see what you're saying about Aaron adding something. When you say, like, we say Turry's been there before, he's done it. He's done it. You know, like, he's won the national championship. Like, there are some people, and you'd be like, oh yeah, he's done it before. He started at the Division I level. But then there's like, oh, he's blazed through the ACC tournament. You know, like, he's won it all. So I think there's something to be said for that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think right now, Luke Aaron was playing probably as one of the best goalies in the nation, especially against Maryland. If Nico Amato didn't have the game of his life against Maryland, we'd probably be talking about how well Luke Aaron played in that game. And then he kind of comes up and, he only has 2 saves. But from one uncertain goalie situation to another, you and Princeton and another team that I want to talk about panicking possibly is Princeton. They won against Hofstra, which now doesn't look as bad in
Right.
terms of a margin because they only won at 9. They didn't look too good. It was their season opener. Then they had an easy win against, I think it was Manhattan. And now they come up with 2 big losses to 2 really good teams in Johns Hopkins and North Carolina. So, Dave, let's start with, is it time to panic down there in Princeton?
It's close, and this is why I say it. It's close because it all comes down to the Ivy League, and the Ivy League right now is a little tougher, at least from my perspective, than I thought it was going to be coming in, looking at Princeton on paper, Cornell losing everybody in their coach. Yale was good, but I really thought Princeton was the cream of the crop. Now I look at these Ivies playing really well, Cornell taking down Virginia, which I know we'll talk about, and you look at this Penn matchup in less than 48 hours, and it's definitely scary because now it's like all the pieces have to be in place, and it's really go time. The 2 losses to Hopkins and North Carolina, I don't want to say you can throw out, but you can certainly recover. You just have to play your best lacrosse from now on. I think the biggest thing that came out of the North Carolina game, which you were talking about, Andrew, is the goalie situation. Matt O'Connor really stepped up, had a career high in saves, and anchored the defense well. I don't want to say he played outstanding. He had some great saves, some back-to-back that really get Princeton in the game late. But he definitely has a way to go, but he showed that he's the guy. He was there last year. He hasn't won a national championship, but he has been the guy, played a full Ivy season. He's a sophomore. So it looks like he'll get the start. The thing that they really need to worry about is offensively, I think they just rely on Schreiber. They have other playmakers, and Ryan Ambler's been playing great with 10 assists, but if Schreiber isn't on the field, at least up in the press box, and I look down at the sideline, I feel like there's not the same energy with the team. And so, that's worrisome a little bit, and I hope some other guys, I think Jake Ficcaro's due for a breakout game, Tucker Shanley as well. So hopefully they can right the ship. But I thought they needed to go 1-1 in those last 2 games, and unfortunately they went 0-2.
Yeah, so Dave brings up a good point here, Alex, and the point being that the offense kind of centers around Schreiber. And I think if an offense is too reliant on a great player like him, I tend too much expect to do a lot. But, it's not like they're a lack for weapons. They have McDonald. They have Kip Orban. They have Ambler. Do you see anything offensively, Alex? And then in terms of the goalie, do you think they should go with Liam O'Connor for the rest of the season?
Offensively, we saw one player kind of do it all last year with Schuss. He took over at Ohio State. Yeah, King was there, but really Schuss was the name of the game. So we've seen it done before. I think it's a little bit harder at the midfield with Schreiber, and he plays both ways. And we've seen that the last 3 years, and we've seen it so far this year. He plays both ways. He's a great lacrosse player. With O'Connor, I think you kind of have to go with him at this point. He's playing pretty well. He's playing really well, actually, I think. And the defense around him is really young, and so it's I think give them the chance to get through a couple games in the Ivy, which for me is right there with the ACC. Probably a step down from the ACC, but it's still tough. This year you got Princeton, Penn, Yale's looking actually pretty good. Cornell's kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, it's not a bad conference, so I think we kind of need to give them a game or two into the Ivy to figure out what they need to do. So
let me ask you guys this. So who's also ranked very high. Their defense is known to be extremely airtight. Led by Brian Feeney in goal, great goalie. I mean, personally, I think that he's probably maybe the second or third best. I guess as a senior right now, maybe behind Nico Amato and Austin Cott. But do you, heading into this game for Princeton, what do you want to see?
I'm sorry, I missed the end of the question. You broke up.
Yeah, so what do you want to see out of them, basically, against Penn, who has an airtight defense?
Right. Well, Feeney is definitely a problem. I feel like he's been there forever. I mean, he's just been such a consistent guy for them. And Penn's beaten Princeton in the past few years, and he's always played big. Princeton's got to lean on Justin Murphy at the faceoff X, who actually played very well against North Carolina, who's a good faceoff team, because you talked about the young defense. You talk about O'Connor still needs to find consistency. He played well against North Carolina, still needs to find consistency. But that offense is what makes Princeton go. They have the ability to score 15 goals a game, but they can't do it without the ball. They can do it all. They can push tempo. They can slow it down. If they are controlling faceoffs, they control the game. They dictate the entire tempo. So I think that's the key. But Penn's defense is always tough, and they're well coached, and they play Princeton tough. So, I think the guys like Ambler and Fricaro, those like 4 and 5 guys, are going to need to break through and have those 2 assists that Schreiber might not be able to get because they're shutting him off, in a given situation.
Yeah, Alex, do you agree with that? I mean, do you see Princeton rebounding against Penn?
This is the one game that I really wanted to watch this weekend, was Penn and Princeton. I think it's probably the most highly contested game this year for both teams so far this year, actually. And I think Penn, if they beat Princeton this weekend, they kind of say, all right, we're here and we're here to stay. We're making a tournament run. We want to win the Ivy. And I think it might necessarily, I don't know if it'll put the nail in the coffin for Princeton, but it puts another pound of the nail, because you lose to Penn, who, yes, is a good team, but you're Princeton kind of, it's Princeton kind of thing. There's the tradition and the whole identity of being Princeton. So
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if Princeton loses this game, I don't know what's going to happen down there. I mean, I know they don't really value athletics too much because they're all smarty pants and stuff, and all Ivy League scholars that are going to go rule the world and everything. But Princeton lacrosse has always been traditionally great. We all know that, and for them to kind of maybe miss the tournament again, especially with the high expectations they have, it'd be very interesting to see if there maybe is a coaching change. Do you think that could happen?
Ooh. Man, you're putting me on the spot, man. Bates is my boy.
He's well respected, I'm
he's
sure.
definitely well respected. The kids love playing for him. Tierney had a heck of a legacy here, so stepping into this big boot of a shoe is quite the feat. But he definitely needs to make a powerful move. I think this year the AD, Gary Walters, it's his last year, so I know, they'd like to send him out with a successful spring season across all the sports. He kept Schreiber, that Tierney started to recruit, so it's really all his guys, but he hasn't had that signature season, and he's always had a couple of bumps and bruises along the way and not a lot of tournament success. And this is definitely a year. I don't know if they'll make a coaching change, and I do bring up the AD thing for a reason, because I don't think an AD is going to come in his first 2 years and make a change at the schools, one of the school's most prestigious sports. I just think that's that move would take a lot of gumption, if you will, to make. So I think he's safe. I think he's bringing in the right type of guys. But he hasn't hit. I don't know. I'd love to see some of those traditional 1 and 2 recruits coming in, which he's done with Reynolds this year. So he's on the right track. He needs that goalie, though. He really needs that goalie, because Tyler Fiorito and all the goalies in the past at Princeton, that was tradition to always have a rock solid goalie. So to have goalie troubles 3 games in is very un-Princeton like. So that's something that you definitely notice a difference.
That's a really good point too, especially with Tierney. His younger son was there, and he was awesome. I forget which one.
That was Trevor. Brandon and Trevor, they were both on that team.
Yeah. So while we're still on the topic of the Ivy League, Cornell pulled off a huge upset against Virginia. Huge in my eyes, because after this whole entire and college and firing their coach and all this stuff, they're actually pretty good. I thought they lost a lot of talent, obviously, with Steve Mock, who had 60 goals last year. Obviously, Rob Cornell, who holds record for points in a career. I thought the talent was lost there, but they proved me wrong, and I don't know who else saw that coming, but they beat Virginia, who was defeated. So I pose this question to you, Alex, especially since you think the Ivy League is very strong. How good is Cornell?
Well, I don't know if we can base how strong Cornell is off of the Virginia win. I think Virginia was walking a tightrope there for a while. I mean, they had how many 1-goal games there that they won, and I mean, I just putting it on the Virginia game for Cornell is a little tough. I think Cornell is a good team. Right now, I'm sorry, David. I'm going to say that Cornell's my favorite to win the Ivy at this point. I mean, I know we're only a handful of games in, but with the couple of games that I've seen of Ivy League teams, I mean, that's who I see playing the best lacrosse out of the gate. Now, that's kind of impressive, saying that they lost their head coach and so much from last year. They lost their head coach in the fall. They graduated a ton of talent, and they're still this good. I mean, that says a lot for just the program in general. So I think Cornell is probably our front runner right now in the Ivy. At least mine. They're mine. So
I don't think you're crazy. Cornell's good, but I do agree with the first statement you made, especially that we can't judge them just on the Virginia win. Canisius, Michigan, Binghamton, and Hobart are your other 4 wins. Yeah. And I also think Yale will. I think they'll beat. I mean, I think Yale will beat Cornell. I think Yale is good. So I don't know. I think this is a big telltale week for the entire Ivy League. I mean, if Penn and Cornell win this weekend, I'm just at a loss for words, because I thought it was like Yale Princeton. I thought it was just going to be this easy pyramid to predict, and it would be Yale Princeton in Princeton at the Ivy League tournament. That's what I thought, and so if it's Yale and Penn and Cornell this weekend, it'll blow my mind. But it's definitely possible. But I mean, it's great for the league too, because as more schools come in and get lacrosse teams that are public school, big state schools with like a lot of athletic facilities, big budgets, and scholarships, which the Ivy League doesn't have, I thought that the Ivy League would kind of dilute in talent, and maybe Cornell would stay strong, or somebody would stay strong. But it's nice to see the whole league staying strong as the talent pool expands and more big-time schools like the Michigans and Ohio States get teams.
Well, and I agree with you.
Were you guys impressed? Yeah, go, Alex.
Well, and I agree with you with the bigger schools coming in. I mean, seeing that the Ivy is staying as strong as it is, I mean that's a big deal for me. For me, especially being that I'm in an area that's growing in lacrosse, seeing that perennial powers are staying strong while still these fledgling programs are able to start up and do well. I mean, Michigan looks completely different. Marquette, where the hell did they come from, kind of thing. So, I mean, it's nice to see the powers stay strong, but still those fledgling programs get some sort of a base going. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, were you guys? I was just gonna say beforehand, like I agree with you guys on the whole, expansion in terms of that. But were you guys impressed with Yale's victory over Lehigh? I mean, part of me kind of thinks Lehigh is still riding like a reputation type-ish thing because they're back-to-back Patriot League champs, but they haven't looked that great. I mean, their offense doesn't look good. Their defense is going to be strong because of Pete Polian. Um, but I don't know. Something about Lehigh just doesn't have me feeling them. Sorry for the slang, but if you guys catch my drift there, I mean, what do you guys think about Lehigh, real quick?
I think Lehigh. I think it proved a lot about Yale. I think any defense that's going to allow 2 goals against a team that I still consider a quality team. I mean, they beat Bucknell, Villanova this year, so they're a capable team. And you hold them to 2 goals. I mean, that's really impressive. I mean, you see a lot of teams like, these lopsided, like UVA Richmond, that wasn't a 10-2 game, and this was. So I think it says a lot about both teams. I don't know if it was just one of those Tuesday nights somebody did bad on a midterm type bad games, but it's definitely a shocker in my mind, and it'll be interesting to see how Lehigh kind of rebounds with Navy and Army, two games that they should win. We'll see how they fare, and I think those will be fair barometers. But I definitely think this was lopsided. But it definitely, I think that's why I think Yale's going to beat Penn. I think their defense is good, and I think Brandon Mangan is really good, and he's so clutch. Every time Princeton plays Yale, it's like Brandon Mangan has 2 goals in the final 2 minutes, and Yale beats Princeton. So I believe in the kid.
For me,
He's really good.
For me, Lehigh just, I don't know. I think they've fallen off here. I don't know if it's something and they changed their water supply or something. Somebody took out the steroids or something. I don't know. But I don't think Lehigh will win the Patriot this year even.
No.
I mean, for me, actually, I think, I don't know. I mean, the Patriot League's kind of, that's an interesting league for me right now. I don't know.
Don't forget about Loyola, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it seems pretty apparent.
Well, and that's the thing is we've got Loyola, but with Lehigh falling off, I think it's one of those things that you have to just sit there and like scratch your head. Can Loyola keep going? Can they hold pace with through the entire season with what they're doing? But I'm just at a loss for the Patriot League in general. So
I just think it's big that Loyola already has Lehigh out of the way, and they're playing good lacrosse. So you have Bucknell twice back to. No, that's misprinted because it says the same day and the same time. So I don't know if they're home or away because it says both, but they play Bucknell on April 17th, so that'll be one to watch. And then Loyola finishes up at home against Hopkins. So that you're right, though. They're going to have to really play wire-to-wire lacrosse. They have a really tough schedule throughout.
Well, are you sure they still play Bucknell? Because I've got them. They played on the 8th here and beat them 9-3.
Yeah, I don't have that. So I'm on.
That was the.
Oh, that's good.
We got faulty websites.
Yeah, well, I used to go to lax.com
and
it's like,
I think.
Because that was off their website.
I was pretty high on them. I was pretty high on them. I thought they'd play a lot better, but they've they've kind of taken a step back, I would say, in terms of momentum. And they had a lot of offense, and coming back, and David Dixon, some of the other guys. But this year, I don't know, they just haven't played well for whatever reason. They did lose their starting goalie, but their new guy, some Jewish name like Greenberg or something, got a shout out to my fellow Jews, but in goal. But he's played well. He's played well. Anyway, so next topic is I want to talk about is Maryland, Loyola, Johns Hopkins. Top 3 teams in the nation. The coincidence is all 3 of them are in Maryland. So I propose this to you guys. Is #CrabCakeNation, a.k.a. Maryland, the best college state in Division I?
Yeah.
I don't think we can say anything else other than that. Yeah. You take Canada out of it, who's left? Maryland.
Yeah, also, they're all in Maryland, but Loyola and Johns Hopkins, if people haven't been there, they have like the same address. Like their main buildings are across the street. It's like St. Charles Street or something. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah,
so they're literally across the street. So there's a lot of talent over there, and hopefully not too many bar fights come the end of the season.
So which one of those 3 do you think is better? Like, if you rank them, do you think the rankings are accurate? Would you put one of them, say, too high, too low? If they went head-to-head, anything like that?
For me, Maryland's 1, Johns Hopkins 2, Loyola's 3, actually. I think Hopkins has something Loyola doesn't. I don't know what it is. It's one of them X factors. And Maryland is now, once again, they are the best team in the nation. Flat out. They've beaten number 2s, number 1s. They're the best in the country right now, period. And, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that, because I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah, I'm right there with you in lockstep with the rankings. Hopkins, when I saw them in person, man, their shooters are scary. But Maryland, just like, it's so clean. Like, looking at their wins, like, I don't even care who they're against. I'm blocking them out. It goes 16-3, 14-3, 16-8, 10-6, 11-8. That's just like you sleep well at night, You're just doing business and going about, what you're doing, and I love it. So it's definitely – and Shannon Chuck is a Princeton transfer, and he was Ivy League Rookie of the Year when he was at Princeton, and it's scary to think if he had stayed, but it's scary seeing him in a Terrapin uniform because his shot, which was unreal when he was a freshman, has gotten even better. And then you have like Rambo, it's crazy. His brother's doing really well at Rutgers too. So shout out to the alma mater. Rutgers is getting votes in the poll if you guys haven't noticed. So keep a lookout.
I noticed Rutgers was getting some votes, but didn't want to say anything because it's Rutgers. I'll get to see. Hopefully I'm gonna try next year since we're starting the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping Rutgers and Maryland come west so I can go to some games actually, which would be awesome. I already tried to plan out my trip to Columbus to see Ohio State and Maryland.
Nice.
I think that's probably, just flat out probably one of the best games all year. Don't care how bad Ohio State loses. Just want to see the Turtle win.
Yeah.
Personally, as a Terrapin fan of just their whole entire athletic program, I'm actually scared that Maryland is number 1 right now because whatever happens towards the end of the year, they always play well at the beginning, pretty well in the middle, and they always get like a step or two. Like, winning a championship, I think in like 2008, I was at the game, and then they lost in the national title game, and it's just so disheartening to see Maryland like they so good teams over the past Final Four year. Been in championship games 2 times in the last like 3 or 4 years, and they have 0 national titles to show for it. and it's just so disheartening. Like I almost want them to be ranked like number 10 and just be angry. But that can happen. But going to your point, Dave, I was actually thinking about that once Chen Chuck transferred and like looking at how good Schreiber is. Like imagine that midfield unit between those guys and Anderson. I mean that's the best midfield unit hands down in the nation if that happened. And that's scary. That's really scary. To go to your point, Alex, about the Ohio State team, you mentioned how bad they were. They're really bad this year, like 1-4. We thought they looked pretty good against Hopkins, and it was like, oh, it was Hopkins. We'll dismiss it in overtime, or in like 4 overtimes, I think it was, 3, 2, one of them, whatever. They lost, and they just haven't looked the same since. Their offense looks stagnant. It really just looks like, hey, let's give the ball to King and see if he can do something, and that's it. Everyone else go out of the way. Like they're lost without Schuss. And defensively, pretty good. They bring back Dino. They have Muir down low. They have Dutton, who had a strong game against Hopkins, and now they're 1-4. So, what's happening with Nick Myers and Ohio State, guys? I mean, how do they go from such a great season last year to nothing now? I mean, is it just because of graduation and all the guys they lost?
Yeah, I think. I watched a couple of their games, some replays, and some tape. And the first game of the season, I think you always take with a grain of salt once you get to like the 4th or 5th, And Hopkins, was finding out who they were. Ohio State played well, but you could see even then it was get the ball to King and everyone else get out of the way. It's exactly what you said. And if the ball wasn't in his stick, it wasn't moving fast, the shots weren't happening, everyone else was ball watching when he had the ball, not cutting to open space. So it's a recipe for disaster. And then when they lost to UMass, did a pretty, they're not the world's best team. They looked good for a couple weeks, but they were able to handle it. And then, the Penn State, Hofstra does look good, but, if they don't have a good showing against Denver, like if they get blown out against Denver, it's over for Ohio State.
I totally agree with you, actually. I mean, if they don't do well against Denver, they've got literally nothing to say for themselves for the rest of the year. Yeah. I mean, the only game that they have the rest of the year that really should be anywhere near giving them any trouble is, the only game that's really on their schedule left after Denver is Notre Dame. I mean, they played Bellarmine, Jacksonville twice, Delaware, Michigan, Air Force, and Fairfield. I like the Air Force team in general. I think they're a great team. But, I mean, that should be a win. The Michigan, albeit it's the border battle, it's Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State should mop up in that game. But they need to show well against Denver, possibly pull something out of their butts against Notre Dame, and then go into the ECAC tournament and pretty much pull something out of their butts again.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Fairfield. I watched Fairfield last weekend, and they can do some damage. They can score some goals, and they're tough on D. So, and it's not like Ohio State's going to roll over some of these teams, Yeah, because I totally agree with your schedule breakdown, but I could just see the Delaware game somehow being a 2-goal game. It's just something that grinds them in the middle of the week and then leads you to not play well in another game, and it can just trickle down. So they need to fix things, but it's not like they have the pieces on offense to fix it. I mean, not that I've seen at least.
The only thing on offense that I've seen them, other than King, they've got some young guys that have the potential to do it. Guys like, pulling out names here, like Gordy Korber, he's from Baltimore. I mean, he's only got 3 points in the year, but the kid can ball. Along with the attackman, the sophomore, Carter Brown, they can play. They've got young guys that can play, that can do something for them if they get them in the right situations. I think they're so centered on King playing. You know, I mean, it's kind of like Princeton. They're so centered on one player for the most part that the rest of the offense doesn't work very well. So there's pieces I think that I see at least that could work, but it's going to take some sort of miracle for Ohio State to make it back. And it's going to have to, I mean, they're going to have to essentially win the ECAC tournament. And that's the only way I see them making the national tournament.
Yeah. I'm with you,
They
man.
gotta pull like a Detroit Mercy last year. And,
Whoa, I don't know about that.
0-4.
I don't know about that. That was an anomaly.
Detroit did.
You know, yeah, Detroit, they pulled something magical. I have to admit, they did. But I don't see that happening very much. But I think Ohio State's got to pull something pretty close to really have any chance at all.
Yeah.
You guys are mentioning Ohio State. You know, like we said, it's very offensive centric to King. But you guys are mentioning the talent behind King as like, you know, hey, this guy has great potential to be good, like Carter Brown or you know, I think his name's Turner Evans. You know, he's good too. Do you think this is just one of those things like, you know how a team has a lot of seniors and they go far and then they get a talented freshman class in, but they're really young and they have like one or two studs, and then the year after you see them kind of take like that step back to being a good team because all the offensive pieces are now together. They got the talent to go with it. Same thing with the defense. Do you think that's what could happen with Ohio State from here on out?
It's definitely going to be a chemistry thing. I mean, if these pieces that have the potential and can play mesh together, then they'll be successful. It's just it's tough to do it when you have Hopkins, UMass, Penn State, Hofstra, Denver, Notre Dame in the first half of your season, and then all the easy games. So it's backwards. If you're Ohio State, you'd want the exact opposite schedule. Start with Fairfield, Michigan, Delaware, Jacksonville. You know, so that didn't work to their advantage because they needed to be playing their best lacrosse at the beginning of the year.
I mean, plus you look at Ohio State's defense. That defense isn't that bad. I mean, they lost to Johns Hopkins in overtime. It was a close one against UMass. I mean, 1-goal game against UMass. The Marquette game, they only won by 4 goals. Penn State was really a close game. I mean, it kind of 11-8. It looked a lot closer on the field, and then they only lose to Hofstra by 2. I mean, the starting goalie is Greg Dutton. The guy's made 47 saves. He's 50% right now. That's really not horrible when you think about who they've really played. I mean, Johns Hopkins, probably the best shooting team in the country.
Yeah.
UMass, they always pull out every year. They pull out one or a couple of these games where they look like they're a national championship team. Hofstra is looking better and better every week. I don't know if Ohio State's really that bad or if they just suck at scheduling.
Yeah, I mean they're good. Like what you're saying is true, but the L's are already there. And
yeah, exactly.
That's what sucks.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they've got them in the wrong place. They've got those L's in the line. If they'd spread out those games,
yeah.
I don't think we'd be saying the same thing.
Right, and then it's like, oh, have we found ourselves? Oh, I don't know. Let's go test it against Denver. It's like, oh no, That's like worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's at Denver. Woohoo!
Yeah, it's okay. We saw what happened with Penn State and Notre Dame going out to Denver. Probably nobody else will ever go out to Denver for a game after this year ever again.
No chance.
Period.
No chance. What do you got, Andrew? Hit me, man. Uh-oh. I got disappointing you?
Disappointing me? Personally, Ohio State's one of them. I thought that they would be able to hold on longer. I was really hoping that Duke would look better at this point. I mean, there's not a bad team, but they just don't look like the same Duke team that we're used to, I guess. But another one is the other two is Notre Dame and Denver, I think.
Yeah, Notre Dame, man. What did I tell you guys? What did I tell
last
you?
time we were on,
I told you guys.
Notre Dame.
All right, Notre Dame, not for real. Go look at their stat sheet. And I respect the program. I don't respect the athletic department, but I respect the players in the lacrosse program. And they're 2-2, but Matt Kavanaugh, 9 goals and 7 assists. He has 16 points. The next highest score is 7 points. And I know they've only played 4 games, but I really thought that they would beat Penn State. And Denver at home, if you're Notre Dame and you finally want to make that push, win that game at home and start the year 4-0. Then they're the number. Then you're talking about them, Maryland, and Hopkins, and Loyola's 4th. So yeah. Notre Dame, and it doesn't get easy. I mean, Virginia, then the Ohio State game, which is they need to play well to prove themselves now too. Ohio State's going to have to get up for that game. Notre Dame's going to have to get up for that game. Syracuse, Duke, and Maryland all still on the schedule. That's Virginia, Ohio State, Syracuse, Duke, and Maryland.
These Gold Domes, they frustrate me so much through the regular season. They've done it the last, I don't know how many years. But
since Rudy, about 89.
Whoa! Don't be bringing Rudy into this.
I'm just saying.
But no, I mean, they beat Jacksonville. That's a given. Penn State, I'll give them that. Penn State looks out of this world this year to me. They beat North Carolina, which I think is a great win for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think North Carolina kind of fell asleep. But you then you've got Denver at home, and you say, okay, we can be 3-1 with one loss to a team that is, probably the fastest up-and-coming team in the country, and you blow it with a 10-7 loss, and it did not look that close.
Nope.
I mean, albeit the North Carolina win is a come from behind, but they're 2-2, and it doesn't look impressive at all.
No, and when you look at the ACC teams, they're going to have to play. It's going to get even tougher, even though Syracuse I'm not sold on yet. So.
Yeah, I think Syracuse has been spoiled the last number of years with goaltenders and defensemen. I don't think they have it this year. They've got a great the offensive end of the ball for them. Probably one of the best offenses in the country on paper. Their defense is completely lackluster. I mean, it doesn't do it for me. It's kind of what Princeton's going through. Princeton's always had that amazing defense and strong goaltending, and they've been spoiled with it. Now they don't have it, and it doesn't look like they know how to play with it. So, yeah, the Gold Domes I want them to do so well and look so amazing, and they just don't do it ever.
They're never going to look amazing with an Adidas contract. So you don't have to worry about that ever.
You got a point there. You got a point.
Yeah. So there are some big games this weekend too. Andrew, do we have audio on you? Can we hear you? You there?
Did he freeze out again?
Yeah, it's been that same creepy picture, and I was like, man, he's grilling us right now. For predictions. Andrew, if you can hear us, we're going to do score predictions on some games this weekend. So we'll go right around the horn. Did he freeze again? No, his eyes moved. He's there, man.
What's up?
He's there. All right.
I'm sorry.
No,
I don't know what happened. Internet connection, whatever it is.
It's cool. You froze, and there was this creepy picture of you on the screen for a while. But it's all right. You can watch it on the replay. So,
I'm sure it's awesome.
So I'll run through the games the big games this weekend. We'll go right around the horn and we'll do score predictions.
I got
How's that?
Duke UNC. I got Cornell Yale, Hopkins Cuse, Penn State UMass, Notre Dame Virginia on Sunday too. So I don't know what game you want to watch or go for. What your like must game to watch is. I mean, from a like I guess historical perspective, it would be Duke Syracuse. That's a rematch in the national title. Personally, I think Duke will win. I don't trust Syracuse's defense right now, and their face-off game sucks. They have nobody there. Dado or Daddio or whatever his name is can't win a face-off for his life, and then once he starts losing, he starts to false start, and then he does it 3 times, and then all of a sudden they just crank out goals, and that's what happened in the Maryland game. So give me Duke big. I'm talking like 14-8, 14-7, something like that.
Wow.
Well, Duke's
Valor's
playing,
gonna go off.
but Duke's playing UNC, man.
Oh, well.
That's the only thing. I was gonna let you. You were just doing such a good job breaking down Duke Cuse that I didn't want to break in and tell you.
I'm not having a good day today, guys. It was kind
Duke-
of cold today at practice.
No, it's fine.
We got the
Duke
internet
Cuse.
connection thing.
Duke
You know
Cuse.
what? I'm just gonna pass it to Alex. Alex, go. I'm just taking this round out.
So in the fantasy matchup of Duke versus Cuse, no, for Duke, North Carolina, Alex, who you got?
For me, I throw out everything for these rivalry games that I've got on just about pretty much everything on both teams. It's Duke and UNC. It's essentially who owns North Carolina. Sorry, High Point. Sorry for it. It's not gonna deal with you at all. Just go off and play somewhere else. But for me, I think UNC going into the game looks a lot better than Duke does right now, at least from my perspective. And actually, Saturday morning I'll have my nice little preview of the game going on that'll go up on InLax. But I think UNC just looks that much better. I think their offense is that much better than Duke, period, at any point. And I just don't know if Duke can handle UNC from a defensive standpoint with the goaltending problems they've had and the defense problems they've had. They've got guys missing slides left and right. So my vote is UNC. Probably, I'm going to go 12-8.
Ooh, I like that pick. I like UNC as well, especially seeing them in person. I'm always partial to the people you see in person. Just, I don't know. I guess that's human nature. I've watched Duke, but I really like UNC. I like Kieran Burke in goal. He played so well in the fourth quarter against Princeton that he can play well in a big game. So I'll take Duke by around that same score.
You mean UNC?
I mean, I'm not going to go. What? Yeah, I'm going to take UNC. I'm going to take UNC, and Syracuse is going to beat Duke. So, no, I'm going to take UNC 13-9 just because I want to be different. And I will, since we're going to do this snake, and I'm going to hit Johns Hopkins Syracuse.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say Hopkins. That I could see like 16-6 Hopkins.
Yeah. I mean,
I see Hopkins' defense holding them straight. I mean, possibly under 5 even. I think Hopkins' defense is that good. That, and I think Hopkins is just going to control the ball the entire time.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, Daddio and Giancola suck at faceoffs. Period. I mean, Charlie Rappa made him look like school children. Seriously, he got that far inside of guys' heads, and he, like we were talking about the backward stick goal that happened last week. Rappa scored 2 of those against Syracuse.
Yeah,
he does that a lot.
I don't see Syracuse having any chance in this game. I'm going with, you know what? I'm taking an Albany score right now. I got them at 20-5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
Down on Cuse. That sounds like my prediction for like a Notre Dame game. So
Ooh.
Andrew, what do you got? Hopkins Cuse, man.
All right. Well, actually, I was gonna go with Hopkins, Maryland. So
Oh yeah.
talk about that while you guys talk about the real games.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, Drew Kennedy mentioned the faceoffs. Daddio, I mean, he's gonna lose a couple faceoffs right from the start. He's gonna start jumping. He's gonna lose the 30-second penalties, and Hopkins is just gonna take advantage on the man up. Unless they put a pole there, Drew Kennedy is gonna go off at the faceoff X. Give it to that offense. The two-man game that Will Stanwyck and Brandon Ben and Rob Guida and all those guys are working at behind the cage, it's been unstoppable. And Duke's defense isn't going to be able to stop them. And the one thing that I've been impressed about this year about Hopkins is that they lost a great individual defender in Tucker Durkin. But this year they're actually better as a unit collectively. Like they are really, really strong collectively as a unit. And also Brian Schneider, I think his younger brother is playing really, really well for them. And I think that's the difference between last year's team and this year's team is the playing goal between Schneider and Pierce Bassett.
And actually, it's Eric Schneider, but close enough.
Yeah. And
his older brother at UMass. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one more game that I think we should preview because we don't give enough teams their due. So we're going to preview the random game of the week. And we could start this every week, but we're going to do it this week because Andrew froze too many times and I got on a power trip. So we're going to do, in a battle of recruiting grounds, VMI at Mercer it's at noon. At noon on Saturday. We got VMI coming in at 1-6. Mickey Hoffmeister with 12 goals and 6 assists on the year.
Give that kid the Twarton.
That's what I'm saying. Mercer 2-3 with wins over Richmond and BU, who just transferred from the club ranks.
Yeah.
Zach Ward, though, 16 goals and 3 assists, and he's from Peachtree City, Georgia. So I'm taking Zach Ward and the Mercer. Looks like they're the Bears.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Mercer Bears. 10-9 overtime.
Woo! Another overtime.
Yep.
You know, I'm taking VMI just so I can say, you know what, I'm sticking it to you this week.
You're a good American going with the service academy.
Yeah, wow, good analysis.
I like my service academies, but Hoffmeister just I got to see him play. I got to see him play actually.
You actually did?
Video through a YouTube video, albeit so it was a little of a a highlight video, but the kid can play, and he decided to go to an academy. That says a lot about him in general. But, yeah, VMI, it's going to be a close one, and it's going to overtime, say 15-14. 15-14 VMI in overtime.
Oh, man, March Madness.
All right, you want to hear some real analysis, boys and girls? Get ready. Head coach at Mercer, previous head coach at Goucher. Goucher College, played my school, Drew University. That's who I'm going with. Mercer Bears by 3 goals over VMI. We're going 10-7. The Landmark Conference is going to reign supreme down in the Southeast in Georgia or South Carolina or wherever the heck they're from.
Yeah, where are they from?
Peachtree, Georgia is going to win.
Oh, they're from Georgia. They're from Georgia. I'm actually on the Mercer Bears website, a nice site if you haven't been there, which I have not. And
I have.
Macon, Georgia. So you learn something every day.
Yeah, they're from Georgia.
Yeah, they got some nice unis too. I had no idea.
I'm sorry. You want to go unis? Have you seen VMI's jerseys? They're camo. That's just
that's pretty awesome. That's awesome.
Better. I mean, Army did it a couple years ago. It's just better.
Oh, Mercer has an Adidas contract. I don't know how I feel about that.
You gonna make fun of some more Adidas contracts here?
Yeah, man.
Switched your pick then?
You guys have made a very convincing argument, but no, I'm sticking with my guns.
I don't know if the uniform thing was going to put you over the top.
It was really close. Really close. So.
Actually, I want
to show out since you're now the host.
What's that?
You want to end the show now since you're the host?
I mean, I could end it. I mean, it's crazy because Cops ended, which really threw off my whole thing, and then TNA Wrestling came on, and now it's like I don't want to watch that, so it kind of got distracted. But yeah, totally. I totally want to end the show for you. Next week, we're definitely going to come back. Joe's going to be with us. Me, Joe, Alex, Andrew. Round table. We're going to get some more MLL stuff. We might even have a guest. I don't know. We might find one. So for you guys, I'm Dave Giancola. Andrew, you got anything else to say? You can say the last few words.
I'm just sorry for whatever happened in internet connection and my fantasy world of Duke playing Cuse again. So I'd just like to apologize to all our viewers, all 0 of you guys currently, because there's 0 of you watching us. But if you pick this up, I'm very sorry. And I'm going to bring my A game next week. And I'm going to bring an awesome random pick.
Good. Whoever's Richmond's
maybe
got.
I won't. Maybe I'll just freeze and Dave can take over again.
No way, man.
Well, you know what? You all got to say your last thing. I'm going to say mine. I'm giving a shout-out to the only sanctioned NCAA team in the state of Minnesota, the Augsburg women's lacrosse team, who are 3-3. They went 3-0 to start the season, and they play on the 19th against Concordia, Wisconsin, and then they play the 20th and 21st in Illinois. Beat that. I'm happy now. I can go home.
Yeah, rock on.
Don't they have a crush on you or something?
You know, they have been retweeting me a lot. It's a little awkward with the girlfriend, but, you know,
Ooh.
what can I say?
Ooh. All right, I think we should stop there and leave it as a clip. On to the next show.